We live in a world that's all about being seen, being connected, being constantly on. So it's really no surprise that for a lot of us, the idea of being alone, well, it kind of feels like failure. But what if that's completely backwards? Today, we're going to dive into this idea that solitude isn't some weakness to run away from, but actually a powerful and deeply misunderstood source of strength. So let's start with this question right here. Think about it. We are all trained to fill every single quiet moment, right? With a podcast, a song, a quick scroll through our phone. But what if, in all that running, we're actually running away from the very thing that could make us stronger, more creative, and way more authentic? Let's dig into that. Okay, first things first, we have to get this distinction crystal clear. Loneliness and solitude are not the same thing, not even close. Loneliness, that's a painful feeling of isolation. It's a state of lack. It's something that happens to you. But solitude? That is an intentional, chosen space. It's not about being without people, it's about being fully present with yourself. One is a wound, the other is a practice. But let's be real, making that choice to be alone is tough because the first time you really truly sit in silence, it's almost never peaceful. In fact, it can be incredibly loud. And this is the first stage of the journey, understanding and facing that initial inner storm. The first thing that usually hits you is this wave of raw anxiety. You know that feeling? A little tightening in your chest, a general sense of unease? That's your nervous system sounding an ancient primal alarm. See, for our ancestors, being alone meant being vulnerable to predators, so we're literally wired to think it means we're unprotected. And then, once that initial wave of anxiety kind of chills out a bit, your mind rushes in to fill the quiet. And what does it fill it with? Oh, just a highlight reel of every embarrassing thing you've ever done. Your inner critic grabs the microphone and starts looping all your past mistakes and regrets. And all of this, well, it can bubble up into a really deep primal fear. The fear of being forgotten, maybe unloved, or that you're just not good enough. See, solitude forces us to come face to face with all these raw insecurities that our busy, noisy lives help us to ignore. So why on earth is this so hard? Well, it kind of boils down to three things. First, those ancient alarms. We're evolutionarily wired to see being alone as a threat. Second, the mind fills the void. The human brain hates a vacuum, and it will literally create drama just to have something to focus on. And third, our very modern validation addiction. We're so used to getting likes, comments, and messages that when they stop, it can almost feel like we've stopped existing. And this quote from Blaise Pascal, it just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures this challenge. That discomfort is very, very real. But what happens if you stay? What happens if you push through that storm? That's where things get interesting. Okay, because this is where things get really, really cool. We're about to shift from that emotional chaos to the incredible neuroscience of what's actually happening inside your head. When you embrace solitude, your brain doesn't just shut down, oh no, it wakes up in a completely new way. Let me introduce you to something called the Default Mode Network, or DMN. The best way to think about it is as your brain's inner theater. It's called default because it's what your brain switches to when you stop focusing on the outside world. This network lights up, and it starts connecting your past memories with your future plans, weaving together the story of who you are. Solitude basically gives this crucial part of your brain the uninterrupted stage time it needs to work its magic. And what that leads to is pretty powerful. Every single moment you spend in intentional quiet is like a rep at the gym for your brain. You're not just doing nothing. You're actively building new neural pathways. You're strengthening your mental muscles. It's a workout that literally rewires your mind for the better. And hey, there's hard science to back this up. Just look at this. Regular, mindful solitude strengthens your prefrontal cortex. That's your brain's CEO, the part in charge of focus and self-control. And at the same time, it can actually shrink the amygdala, which is your brain's fear and stress center. So what does this mean? It means you are literally training yourself to be less reactive and more intentional in your life. All right, so you've weathered the inner storm, you've started rewiring your brain for the better. So what's the prize? What do you actually find when you get comfortable in the quiet? This is where we uncover the real treasures of this whole journey. This quote from Lawrence Stern just sets the stage perfectly. It's not about learning to survive without other people. It's about building an inner foundation so solid that you don't depend on anyone else for your sense of who you are. And what does that strength actually look like? Well, here are 4 of the biggest gifts. You find authenticity because you can finally hear your own voice over the noise of everyone else's expectations. You build resilience. You learn to be your own anchor in a storm. You unlock amazing creativity. It's no accident that brilliant minds like Tesla, Rowling, and Beethoven had their biggest breakthroughs while they were alone. And finally, you find true freedom, the incredible feeling of not needing anyone else's approval to feel good about yourself. And now, for the biggest twist of all, the great paradox. You might think that this whole journey of being comfortable alone would, well, isolate you. But it does the exact opposite. Mastering solitude is the secret to forming deeper, more meaningful, and way more powerful connections with other people. This chart shows you why. So many relationships are built on neediness, right? 2 people trying to fill a void in each other. That kind of connection just drains your energy. But when you've done the work and cultivated your own inner world, you connect from a place of wholeness. You're not there to take something, you're there to share your fullness. And that kind of connection, it nourishes your soul. So the big takeaway is this. Real, authentic connection isn't about 2 halves desperately trying to make one whole. It's about 2 whole people, just like you see here, 2 self-respecting individuals who choose to walk their paths together, side by side. Khalil Gibran just captured this idea so beautifully. The strongest bonds don't try to fuse 2 people into one. They honor and respect that individual space, that breathing room that allows both people to keep growing. And that brings us to our final thought. This journey into solitude, it's really a journey to meet yourself, completely unmasked and unedited. It leaves you with maybe the most important question there is, a question that only you can answer in the quiet. Who are you when no one is watching?